Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my show about my little life experiences. This one, episode 3, is going to be called Driving 101. Now, this story was a great story. It was the achievement of all achievements, getting your license. Now, leading up to getting my license, it was a hard thing because at the time growing up, my stepfather who raised me, he was a good guy, nothing bad on the guy, but he had this control over me where he felt like as long as I always needed him, that was his way of controlling me. And I got to understanding that he never wanted to teach me how to drive. He didn't want me to learn anything. On Sundays when he was off, he would say, "Hey, go get the bucket, go wash the car." Because we lived in California, so it hardly rained. And if it did rain, he would say, "Well, go ahead, get the bucket of water, start washing it." And I sit there, I go, "Why? You're not going to teach me to drive or nothing." Then the one time he did teach me to drive, it was pretty cool. But he was like making it so hard to learn, and I was like, okay, this is too much for me. So let's see, it was like 1993. My mom had her best friend who lived in Downey, which is like adjacent from Bell Gardens, and she would have me drive with her. And she said it simply as ever as I taught one of my friends at work how to drive. She got me in the car and she said, "Here's here's the thing where it says park, reverse, drive." That's it. It was I think it was a 1984 Nissan Sentra. I remember that was the car that I learned how to drive. So I would drive with her to her friend's house. I never go inside though. I'll take my dog Benji with me, and he just sit with me in the car. We listen to oldies on the station. Oldies, yes, the '60s. We listen to the oldies, '60s music. It was pretty cool. We just sat there and learned, and it was pretty cool. That's how I learned how to drive. Well, as the years came up in high school, we all had to take a test. Now, there was this 80s movie called License to Drive, and you saw Corey Haim and stuff, and they were like on a computer, they took a test. That must have been for the rich kids because there was not such thing at my driving school. At my DMV, when I got my license many years ago, the there was a test. I mean, they gave you this paper. It was like a scroll. I mean, this paper freaking was long. It had 50 questions on there, and you could only miss 8. That was the most you could miss. Miss any more than that, you failed, just like that. And I remember the first time I took the test, I failed horribly. I remember I had like 16 questions wrong. But here's the funny thing about that, though, because they changed it years later, I'm sure. But what was funny was I had to scroll, and I took it to school the next day when I failed it, showed my friends, and my two other friends were like, "Yeah, we failed our test too." Then the next day they brought their scrolls, and I'm thinking, why would you let us take these scrolls home to remember? And we noticed that all the questions were mixed. So question 1 on mine was like question 8 on theirs, or question 10 on the other one. And I said, "Wait a minute, I have an idea." And I used my left arm. I remember my left arm, and I wrote with I don't think it was a pen. I think it was a Sharpie or something. But I wrote like all 50 questions knowing that if it had this word in it, I knew that was the right answer. So I told my three other friends, I said, and these were the boys of BG. We were all cool in the same area. And I said, I got an idea. This is where we're going to get our right questions. So we did this, and I said, okay. So we studied it first, made sure we knew what was going on, make sure we knew exactly the right answers, make sure exactly we knew how everything was going to be, just to make sure. So we did that, and I was like, okay. And then I passed it, but I made sure when I took the test, because it was with a pencil, I made sure they didn't see my left arm. I think I had kind of a long sleeve shirt on that day, or something. But I remember I took my question, had every question right, and I said I should go there with every perfect answer. And I was like, no, miss 7, because you had to miss 8. So me and my two other friends that we had the papers took it. I made sure I missed 7 out of the 8 just to show that I was hurting. I didn't know what I was doing, but I passed it. That was fine. Everything was great. And I said, okay, this is cool. So now it comes for the driving test. And this was the first time I did it, and my mom was with me for the driving test. And whatever that lady who I took it with, she must have had a bad day, or she probably had a bunch of kids, or she was just mad at the world or something. I have no idea what it was. But she was like very mad, or had that R, was it RB face, whatever. And I just like, okay. She showed me the route. We took the whole route. She showed me where to go. Everything was fine. And then I knew I failed because she wasn't gonna let me slide for nothing. And I remember when we were getting close to the DMV, and then she goes, "Turn in here," and I accidentally went past it. And she goes, "You went past the DMV." And I was like, "Oh," in my head I was like, "Yeah, that was for me showing you how I didn't care anymore because I knew I failed." So I got there. She looks at me, looks at the clipper, and she goes, "Yeah, you failed." And I said, "Okay, thank you." She left the car, and I was like, "All right, whatever." So I told my mama, I said, "Mom, I failed." And she said, "Okay, we'll try next time." So I was like, whatever. I think it was like a month or two later, I was begging my stepdad. I said, "Dad, please, can I take the test again?" And he said, when you do better, when you do better. And this was 1996. And I knew things weren't good at home, but I didn't care. It didn't bother me none. Whatever. I love my mama. I loved her to this day. And I was like, whatever. It didn't matter to me. So then comes, I called, finally he says, "Oh, if you wash the car, we can go, we need to go take your things." So I washed the car, tried to be a good boy and kiss his butt a little bit. Everything was cool. I go to drive, and he finally says, "Okay, you can use we can take your test." I said, "Cool." We get to the DMV. I'm nervous as hell. I'm like thinking, "Oh man, hope this person isn't mean." So I get in the car waiting for the guy to come in. This cool, he had to be like in his, I think, late 20s, because it was exciting and full of life. He comes in my car, and I remember he comes in the car, and the car that I took my test in was my father's Chrysler LeBaron. He comes in, and he goes, "Hey, how's it going? How you doing?" I think it was like the afternoon or something, and he goes, "Man," he was wiping his eyes, the crust and everything. And I'm like, looking at him, going, "Okay." And he goes, "Oh, I'm so tired. I am so tired." And I'm like, just sitting there going, "What do I care?" And he goes, "I was with this girl last night." He goes, "Oh man." He goes, "I am so tired, man." He goes, "I'm so tired." He goes, "It says on here you failed once before." And I looked at him going, "Yeah." And he goes, "Cool, cool, cool." He goes, "I'll tell you what, you know the route, right?" And I said, "Yes." And he goes, "All right, I'm going to pull my seat back. I'm going to take a nap. You do the route like I'm teaching you what to do. You wake me up before we pull back in here, okay?" And I looked at him thinking, is this a joke? What's going on here? Kind of confused at the story. And I was like, "Okay." So I did the route, and right there, I kid you not, it started raining. Like, it was raining hard, and it never hardly rains in California, like that song says, where it never rains in California, because it rarely does. But it rained that moment, and I'm sitting there going, "Oh man, it's raining." I did the route. This guy had his shades on, passed out next to me. I'm thinking, "Oh boy." And I did the route just as I learned from the last time. And I remember when I got on the freeway was traffic like crazy and everything, and it was just like, wow. And I was sitting there thinking, like, just do the route. Don't say a word. Don't say nothing. Just drive. And I remember by this time, I remember Jesse got his license, Angelo got his license, and I was like, "Okay, I'm the third, so this should be good. I should be getting my license now." Did the route, everything was good. I was scared. It was great. Then we get back, and I nudge him, and I go, "Hey, hey, hey, we're coming back to the DMV." And he goes, "Oh, okay, good, good." He goes, "I needed that nap." Oh man, did I need that nap? He said. And I'm looking at him going like, "Okay." So we pull in, park the car back in the spot. He looks at me and goes, and I'm thinking, please don't tell me you're messing with me. Please don't tell me you're messing with me. And he goes, "How do you think you did?" Didn't say anything. He goes, "Here you go. writing, scribbling on the paper. He goes, "You passed, congratulations!" And I'm sitting there going like, "What?" And he left the car, and I'm thinking, did this just happen? I ran outside, and I remember father and son moment. I ran into my dad's arms saying, "I passed, I passed, I passed." I ran to my mom later that night when she got home from work. I said, "Mom, I passed, I passed, I passed." I was so excited. I told my friends, I passed. I didn't tell anyone this story. I never told no one this story. Then as years passed, I was in the Navy, met friends, this and that, told all them people these stories. I started telling the story over and over again. And they always gave me a look like, that guy did that? And I'm thinking like, yeah. I said, I can't wait to when I die someday that guy I want to meet and see, was he with that girl still that made him tired the next day, whatever that was. 'Cause I didn't think about that stuff. I was a teenager. I didn't think about women because all I thought about was graduating high school for my mom. I didn't care about love, anything. I just wanted to graduate. And I remember, oh, that's so funny. I told my kids later about this story too, and I thought it was hilarious. But I think that guy, and I wanted to share that story with the rest of the world. Now here I am. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Stay tuned for episode 4. Have a good day, guys.